What is going on, everybody? Voidlego here, back with a brand new episode of Higurashi When They Cry. Last time we were on, we had a cooking competition to see who made the best curry, and we made good curry. That's it. So yeah, let's just keep on going. It was just a nice slice of life episode. I might have explained this before, but physics at our school is really just an exercise in disorder. After some random warm-ups, the rest of the time is spent doing whatever. You're free to cause a ruckus or just fall asleep.
よくは知らないけど、教育委員会とかに教育指導要項とかあるだろ?
Probably.
何歳ならこれくらいの運動能力はなければいけないみたいなさ。
圭一さんが何を言ってるのか難しくてさっぱりですわよ。先生の授業の進め方のルールみたいなものなの。
Oh, say get fired.
都会の軟弱な連中にはそういうのは必要だろうけどさ、田舎育ちのうちらが身体能力で劣ると思う？
僕たちは圭一が思ってるよりも運動神経はいいのです。
Come to think of it, they might be right. If we all lined up for a race, there was a good chance I'd finish dead last if I didn't start off well. Let's just pray that when a brutal penalty game is at stake, the 100-meter dash isn't a club activity.
ではそういうことで、俺はテレビの見過ぎで実に素敵に眠い。睡眠時間の補給をさせてもらうぜ。空腹絶頂の4次元目。今寝ずにいつ寝るよ。
As I began to sprawl out on the top of a pipe, Mion grabbed me by the collar.
ちっちっち。
Oh boy.
まさかおとなしく眠らせてもらえると思ってる？
その顔で言われたら、おとなしく寝る方が勇気がいりそうだ。
Good grief. Which means, is it gonna start again?
さて、このまま井戸端会議でチャイムを待つなんて、熱き血潮のたぎった私たちには無理だよね。部活タイム行ってみよっか。
ちぇ、案の定来やがったな。今日のゲームは何だ?
Now that this is happening, taking a nap is impossible. Not just that, with this sweet-deprived head of mine, I'm as good as mincemeat. I have to get my brain into gear.
レナはそれより今日の罰ゲームは何かなの方が先だと思うな。
レナは分かってるね。今日もとびっきりのを用意してるよ。
She began to announce a cool penalty game with a grand sprinting flourish. But before she could do that...
ごめんなさいです。僕はちょっとやりたいことがありますです。
Of all people, it was Rika-chan announcing her non-participation. Even rare events do eventually occur. Losing her timing, Mion spun like a top as she tumbled to the ground.
あれれれれれれれれれ。何？どうしたの？今日は調子悪いの？
あ、そうか。みーちゃん、綿流しの練習だよ。そうですわよ。今度の日曜日ですもの。リカは猛特訓中なのですわよ。最近は頑張りすぎてお腕が痛いのです。
そっか。じゃあ仕方ないな。全員揃わないなら仕方ない。今日は各人のんびりしようかね。
ごめんなさいなのです。でも頑張りますですよ。頑張ってね。レナたちも応援してるからね。
When Mion announced her that today's club activity was cancelled, Rika-chan and Sadako headed off behind the school building. Only I was left alone, completely clueless as to what everybody was talking about.
一体何なんだ? リカちゃんは何か大会前とかで特訓をしてるのか?
リカちゃんは綿流しの巫女さんだから奉納の演舞をすることになっててね。その練習なの。
Why don't you explain things in order? First of all, what is this one at Higurashi? Next, what do you mean by shrine maiden? Last, what do you mean by ritual dance?
あれケイちゃん家には回覧板とか言ってない？
Oh yeah, the notice.
書いてなかった？今度の日曜に綿流しのお祭りがあるって。
Huh? Come to think of it, I have a feeling Mom did say something about it during dinner the other day. The one at Kagashi is a festival that happens at a shrine on Sunday every June. It's very lively. I see. But one at Kagashi sounds like a pretty strange name for it. Is it something like the Lantern Festival, where they have a memorial for the dead by putting things down the river?
お、さすがはケイちゃん、察しがいいね。綿流しはね、名前の通り綿を流すんだよ。
The gun you see is from futons or jackets, so it'd be something like a futon memorial?
祭壇にもお布団を積み上げているし。
I've heard of people leaving offerings of things like needles or kitchen knives to ancestors or to casualties of war. But an offering of futons is first for me. What's the history beyond that? Mion tilted her head pensively.
言われなんてほど難しいのはないと思うな。この辺って冬の寒さはかなり厳しいからね。布団と。
ああ、なるほどな。つまり冬の間お世話になった布団に感謝しようってわけだ。で、巫女さんが供養をして最後に川に流すわけか。それが綿流しってわけだろ。
Mion and Wena indicated that I had the correct answer of a round of applause.
でねでね。その供養をする巫女さんの役がリカちゃんなの。
へえ、リカちゃんが巫女なんだ。言われてみればリカちゃんってどことなく神秘的な雰囲気あるよな。
だよね、だよね。リカちゃんの巫女さん姿ってね、はうかわいいんだよ。
It certainly does seem like it would suit her. Yeah, it might be cute.
ようやく話が見えてきたぞ。リカちゃんの言う特訓ってのはこの巫女さん役の練習なわけだな。
そういうこと。巫女さんが布団をお祓いする一連のセレモニーを奉納演舞って呼ぶんだけどね。それの練習なんだよ。結構大変なんだな、これが。
巫女さんはね、祭事用の大きな桑を持って演舞をするんだけど、それがね、リカちゃんにはすっごく重いらしいの。
リカちゃんってちっちゃいもんな。その重いクワってどのくらい重いんだ？
かなり重いらしいよ。リカちゃんは餅つき用のキネで練習してるくらいだから。
Wait a minute. That's way too heavy. Forget about Rika-chan, that'd be rough even for me.
祭事用の神聖なクワだからね。間違って落としちゃったら大変らしいし。
まあ年に一度のお勤めだからね。私たちは陰ながら応援するしかないね。大丈夫。去年もちゃんとやり遂げたんだから。
そっか。じゃあさ、せめて応援してやろうぜ。それくらいならいいだろう。
I was rather curious about exactly how she practiced. Mion laughed as she shook her head.
ほっといてあげなよ。ケイちゃんが来たらリカちゃんは可愛くなっちゃうから特訓ができなくなるよ。
I didn't quite understand what Mion was saying.
リカちゃんはね、努力とかそういうのを人に見せるのが好きじゃないのね。そっとしておいてあげて。
Even though always cool and aloof, Rika-chan has times when she sweats while giving it her all. Because she was always so well put together, she didn't want people to see an ungranular side of her. It's not like I couldn't understand that feeling.
俺にできるのは成功を祈ることだけってことか。頑張れフルでリカ応援してるから。
Well, I climbed up onto the pipe and plopped down on my side. Just like
フレーフレーリカちゃん。さらに応援の電波を高めるため、これより瞑想状態に入る。
結局寝るわけか。
The lack of lackadaisical noontime, jeez, ended up giving way to mind-numbing afternoon classes. Rebounding from yesterday's hunger, ate too much for lunch today, leaving me in a horrible condition.
さすがに食いすぎた。午後の授業は答える。
ケイチくん、今日はなんだかすごい食欲だったもんね。
基本的にいつも大食いだけどさ、
Gee, thanks.
今日はなんか格別だったね。
Oh,
昨
thanks.
日は俺昼飯抜きだったろ。そのひもじさが染みついちゃってさ、今度は逆にいくら食っても食欲が底なしっていうか。
わかるよわかるよ。しかしケイちゃんってさ、いつもお弁当きれいに食べるよね。ご飯一粒も残さないっていうか。
食べ物ってのは作ってくれた人に感謝して食べるもんだぜ。残したら苦労して作ってくれた人に失礼だろ。
Hearing that, Mion's eyes momentarily widened in surprise, followed by a cool laugh.
ケイちゃんってさ、ぱっと見ワイルドでいい加減そうなんだけど、結構律儀だよね。しつけがいいというか。
あ、うん、それはレナも思うな。ケイチくんって見かけよりずっと優しい人だよ。
Both of them were probably trying to compliment me, but I had a strange feeling I wasn't being complimented at all.
そんなことないって。見かけと中身は大違いってそう言いたいんだよ。
それが褒めてねって言ってんだよ。
こら、園崎さん、前原くん、授業中ですよ。
Oh yeah.
園崎さんはどこまで進みましたか？ノートを持ってきてください。
Startled, Mion Voidlego eyes rather easy to understand utterance. She was so enthralled in the conversation, she had stopped working completely.
まあそこそこに。
さっきから全然進んでないじゃないですか。最上級生なんだからもっとしっかりしないといけませんよ。
That Mion looks like she's getting lectured. Poor bastard.
人は見かけによらないっていうことだね。むしろ見かけとは逆が誠かもしれないよ。
面白いこと言うじゃねえか。
It's a way to look at it. Responding to one seemingly profound statement, I turned my gaze to where Sadako was happily studying together with Rika-chan.
あの生意気盛りの聡子も実は見かけとは逆にすげえ塩らしいってのかよ。
If I went by what one of Whittaway said, then that would be the case. I could hardly imagine Sadako being meek and gentle like a girl in some fairy tale.
最近はあんな感じだけど、ちょっと前までは違ったんだよ。すごい甘えん坊で、いつもさとこちゃんには内緒ね。
あの聡子が甘えん坊？
For Sadako to play coy, I think that would have been part of some calculated plot. Even if she was to hide behind someone, I wouldn't think it was because she was attached to them. But since it came up, I tried to imagine a gentle and courtish Sadako. Oh, what a dark timeline that would be.
おい、聡子。
なんですの、お兄様。
Sadako smiled cutely and walked towards me. By the way, for every 3 steps forward Sadako took, for some reason I took 3 steps away.
お兄様、なんで逃げますの？
すまん、聡子。お前が愛想笑いして近づいてくると何かの罠のような気がするんだよ。
ひどいですわ。お兄様の意地悪。
ごめん。別に悪気があったわけじゃないんだ。
The weeping Sadako came closer to me. I'm a sucker for tears. Quick. Great. Huh? Bear trap? My leg was being clamped on by jagged metal teeth.
かかりましたわね。続けていきますわよ。
Sadako raised her right hand triumphantly and traps began to trigger one after another. Suddenly, the wall swung forward for me 3 blocks away. And there I saw a giant metal ball covered in spikes hurling towards me. Top of that, in the direction the ball would knock me, was a giant guillotine.
よくわかんないけど、ケイチ君、今すっごく突拍子もない想像してなかった？
No, it's completely sane and makes sense.
いや別に全然してないぞ。
嘘だ。トゲ付き鉄球に潰されるって顔してたよ。
Seriously, I get a better poker face, can't you? How can my expression convey what I was thinking like that?
すまん。塩らしい聡子の想像ってのはかなり無理がある。今度体調がいい時に再トライしてみるよ。
Next, I looked over at Rika-chan, who was working diligently on some kanji drills. In contrast to Sadako, her default state was meek and gentle. If Rika-chan came at me saying Oni-sama, I'd hug her tightly. I could get used to that.
ケイチ君よだれ。
あ、ごめん。じゃあリカちゃんはどうだよ。あれも見かけによらないってのかよ。
Saying that out loud, I felt a tinge of doubt. Was Rika-chan really all sweet? Despite her appearance, she really was quite sly. Sweetly, how do you put it? Evading things deftly?
確かにリカちゃんはただ可愛いだけじゃない気がするな。確かに見かけによらないぞ。
No, she's clever, that's for damn sure. I couldn't put exactly what I was imagining into words, but when I managed to say what I wanted to, she turned to me with an impish look in her eyes, like she was saying, you shouldn't say something like that.
リカちゃんはきっと大きくなったらね、すっごい美人になって男の人を振り回す小悪魔のような女性になるんじゃないかなって思うんだ。
I mean, yeah.
そういうのかっこよくない？
I wouldn't have said that lightheartedly, but I, as a man, couldn't laugh at that. The scary part about that was what it felt like it could be true. Noticing my gaze, Rika-chan turned towards me and went loose with an angelic smile. Both Wenda and I, feeling as if that was directed towards us personally, had our hearts skip a beat.
かいいね、かいいね。
レナ、鼻血。
Appearances can be deceiving, huh? Now then, what about our dear weirder Mion? I stared at her as she tried to weasel her way out of the scolding by the teacher. By one is fearing that unrefined, calculating, conniving Mion also had a side of her that bullied appearances.
じゃあなんだよ。あのミオンも見かけによらず、実はいいやつだって言いたいのかよ。
みーちゃんはいい人だよ。
あ、まあそりゃそうだけどさ。
Maybe.
そういう意味じゃなくて、その。
ケイチ君の言いたい意味、わかるよ。
Catching on that I was struggling to express my feelings as words, Wena smiled even more brightly.
わかるって何がだよ。
みーちゃんって不思議でしょ？女の子なんだけど男の子みたいっていうか。
I mean, tomboy. That's right. Mion was more than aware that she was a girl, but it was exactly as Wena said. When Mion livened up the mood, it wasn't as though she felt like a guy or a girl specifically, but a friend of the same gender.
あいつが男だったらきっと意気投合するだろうな。で、そりゃ今と同じか。
でもね、そんなみーちゃんも本当はすっごく女の子らしいんだよ。
レナ、お前ミオンにいくらもらったんだよ。
違うの。もうちゃんとした話をしてるんだよ。
Wena began to pout. Now probably wasn't the right time to joke around.
みーちゃんは部活の部長さんだからみんなのリーダーとして頑張ってるけど、本当はとっても可愛い女の子なんだよ。それ特にケイチ君には忘れてほしくないな。
Wena's gaze focused off into the distance beyond where Mion was. Mion that I'd met at Angel Ward's was unimaginably different compared to the Mion that I knew. Flustered and hesitant from the unfamiliar job, it was a far cry from the brash and confident Mion. Even though she had to worry to work, she went through all the trouble of bringing me food when I was on the brink of starvation. And she did so not as Mion, but as Shion. What exactly was Shion to Mion? What kind of person was Mion exactly?
多分ケイチ君には想像つかないと思うな。
As if to say it was our little secret, Rena held her finger up to her lips as she giggled. Mion, finally free from the teacher's preaching, returned to her seat, cradling her head to hide her embarrassment.
チェ、おじさんはね、人生に必要な勉強は小学校までで十分だと思ってんだよ。
Saying that, she plopped down into her seat violently. Mion was actually really feminine, right? I wonder if I can meet Shion again. I wanted to talk to her again. Clang, clang. Waved around the bell that served as a school chime. The teacher rushed back to the blackboard and began to list everybody's homework in silence.
今日は宿題が結構出そうだね。頑張らないと。
Oh shit.
じゃあさ、レナもってことか？
何がかな？
人は見かけによらないって話。レナもってことになるのか？
え
Oh boy.
ケイチ君にはレナのことどう見えるかな？
That is a good question. Very good one. The one that we go that I know sometimes took things too far, but was generally a kind and gentle ideal girl.
本当にだったら嬉しいかな。
She was the opposite of what she seemed. That would make her...
逆なのだとしたら？
Just try saying it. That will be bad. That's what I felt she meant.
レナは
レナは
逆になってもレナだよ。だろ？
This question shouldn't have been so nerve-wracking to answer. Maybe it was because the person in question was staring at me, but even saying that took a strange amount of effort.
ずるいな、ケイチ君。そんな言い方されちゃったら気になっちゃうよ。
Perhaps unable to endure my silence when his face began to burn red with embarrassment.
レナ、ケイちゃん、帰ろう。
Mion walked over and started getting ready to go home. Whenever school is over, she really does get noticeably more energetic. Appearances can be deceiving. Ain't that true for this whole... Well, at least for the first chapter, anyways. It was the same relaxing walk home as always. Digging around my pocket on a whim, I noticed something that should have been there was missing.
どうしたの、ケイちゃん？
いつも持ってるはずのうちの鍵がないんだよ。
Oh shit.
参ったな。どこにやっちゃったかな。親はいるから今日はいいけど、まずいよな。
それは困るね。忘れてきたの？それとも落としちゃったのかな？
Which one was it? Did I take it with me this morning in the first place? Huh?
ケイちゃん、その鍵の特徴は？
キーホルダーがついてる。昔夏休みの宿題で作らされたやつで、青いオットセイなんだよ。
あれ？目をつぶった感じでお昼寝してるみたいなやつ？
なんで知ってるんだよ。
Did she steal my keys?
そうそう、それだよ。
Mion looked away and began to whistle.
さ、おとといケイちゃん、エンジェルモートに食事に行ったでしょ。
Did I leave my
そ
fucking
の晩
keys
さ
there?、
お店で鍵の落とし物があったんだよ。それにオットセイのキーホルダーがついてた。
As she said that, she suddenly grew flustered and added that Shion had told her about it.
あの時に落としちゃったのか。
も見つかってよかったね。お店がきっと預かってくれてるよ。
そうだね。行ってみなよ。シオンの顔、私と同じだからわかるでしょ。
This was a rather unexpected development. Once again, I had no choice but to go and meet with Shion, but I also had to thank her for the bento from yesterday. Besides, taking some time and chatting about this other side of Mion might be interesting. Half-jokingly, I began to think about things like this.
そうだな。エンジェルモートだっけ？シオンの店に行って鍵を返してもらって、ついでにお茶でも飲んで優雅に過ごすってのも悪くないな。
なんだか英国紳士みたいだね。ケイちゃんには似合わないかも。
ひょっとしてそのお店かな。みーちゃんの妹の働いてるお店は。
ああ、なんならレナも一緒に行くか。
ちょっと残念だけど、今日はお父さんと約束があるから、またの機会にするね。
Wendell seemed pretty disappointed about having to miss such a great opportunity.
双子だそうだけど、そんなにそっくりなのかな。
Yeah, pretty much.
間違えるくらい？
ああ、そっくりだ。外見だけはそっくりだ。中身はミオンと違っておしとやかで実に可愛らしいのにな。
In response to my teasing, Mion pouted and began to argue with me. I couldn't help but burst out laughing at Mion's little farce. After all, they weren't just identical, they were the same person. Yeah, sure, they're the same person. Gotcha. After going home, I changed my clothes and dug my bike out of the garage. Just thinking that I would be able to meet Shion again gave me a mysterious feeling. Shion, name for a different kind of Mion. She was a mysterious and ridiculous person, believing she had fooled everyone like that. I noticed that I was pedaling along quite happily. Could it be that I was looking forward to meeting Shion? I felt a sense of giddy anticipation, like I was headed towards a new friend's house for the first time. What is said about Mion actually being really feminine was sprang to mind once again. The guilt from spying on another side of Mion, the self-consciousness from being the only one that knew about that side, these feelings mixed together. That was Shion for you, Mion's little twin sister. Till she felt like coming out and admitting she was Mion, it was fine to just call her Shion, right? Mion might be trying to have some fun by acting out a different persona. As I reached the top of the steep hill, the horizon expanded before me. I was almost at the station. The last time I wasn't embarrassed since I was here with Dad, but this time I wasn't alone. I was strangely self-conscious about it. Me, Shion, get my key back, that was all this task was supposed to be. If I dawdled around like this, maybe Shion would find me before she headed in for work. Oh, Kenji's got a crush on Shion. Hey, what are you doing, Kenji Marubara? You're just here to get your key back, you know? It's not like you're some love-struck schoolboy here to hand over a love letter. The thoughts inside my head were slowly turning into a jumbled mess. I came to the realization that I was downright giddy. That's why, for just a bit, just a tiny little bit, I got a little carried away and did something really stupid. I kicked over a parked motorcycle that was blocking the sidewalk. It was in the way, sure, but there was absolutely no need for me to kick it. I definitely think I got too carried away. Crash! As the three bikes toppled one after another like dominoes, the loud noise they caused sent me back to my senses, and a big old biker guy came out. Oh boy. The owners of those three bikes were right there. They looked exactly what you call thugs up to no good. So, Yakuza like thugs. They lifted their heads up in an imposing manner and yelled angrily in a way I had never heard before. The three of them beelined towards me, the worn down heels of their thin soiled shoes slapping noisily against the pavement. I could only stare wistfully as if I was watching some fall-off event that even didn't concern me at all. By the time I realized it, I had been grabbed by the collar and lifted onto my tippy toes. The three thugs were completely ignoring the rules of grammar, but the way they spoke was enough to make me tremble. Just like that, my composure drained away, my legs buckled, and my throat grew dry enough to crack.
すみません。つい
じゃねえだろ、蹴ったねえかよ、ボケ。
I was completely at fault, so there was nothing I could say in my defense. As a result, I was bored even tighter.
なちくしょう。塗装剥げたじゃねえかよ。おあれ。メガンしたナイスつもりじゃ。
Yeah, I'm gonna die, aren't I?
悪いのはてめえなんだぞ、こんなら。
The three of them continued to yell at me. I had no idea what each of them were saying. Getting further enraged that I was only listening while dumbstruck, they grabbed an empty plastic crate from a nearby store and began to smash it repeatedly against a telephone pole. Cracks formed in the crate, plastic shards flying everywhere. They then slammed it full force into the shuttered storefront. Smash! The shutter let out a frighteningly loud noise. Still not satisfied, they flipped over a case of empty cans, scattering its contents all over the place. This was not normal. It was something you saw often on television or manga, but I never thought seeing it in person would be this terrifying. Became painfully aware that the safety of civilized society was only held up by such a frail concept as morals. My knees clattered together noisily. Static began to pepper my vision. This is what you would call absolute terror. There was nothing I could do to stop this frightening spectacle of violence. I could only pray for help. The fear I felt was just too much. Would somebody help me? My gaze floundered about the surrounding area. I was surrounded by these three hoodlums. No way there would be a passerby brave enough to intervene. Maybe this was what you call reaping what you sow. If I were a passerby, there would be no doubt that I ignored what was going on. So this was somewhat of a cosmic retribution. Angry yelling loud enough to utter my eardrums spewed forth right in front of my face. My warning consciousness was forcibly dragged back to the forefront. The fog had cocked back its free hand and twisted his body, when suddenly a metallic taste filtered through the back of my throat. A chill ran down my spine, like a jolt of electricity. Seeing what was going to happen next, I squeezed my eyes shut as tightly as possible and grit my teeth.
やかましいよクソボケどもが。
Oh shit.
私の目の黒いうちに失せな。
That voice was a short distance away. Still holding me by the collar, the three funks spun around to look behind them.
んだてめえ。
Standing there was Shion. Mion. She stood there, displaying an imposing stature that I've never seen before. She didn't have the same look on her face as she did when we were playing around during club. Those were the eyes that would instill fear in anyone who looked upon them. The eyes of a raptor. They were the epitome of terror. At the same time, they were the most reassuring things in the world.
もう一度だけ言うよ。ケイちゃん話してとっとと失せな。
Hey, we finally get to see the face of Kechi. Mion, without an ounce of fear, laid down her ultimatum. Of course, there was no way that those three would go absolutely berserk. The situation instantly turned explosively dangerous.
だこの女が。
Stop it, Mion. These guys are like rabid dogs. No amount of bluffing will work.
ミオン、危ないから早く。
I knew what I was saying was pathetic, but I couldn't let Mion get involved in this. No matter how you looked at it, Mion was only bluffing. But did Mion even know the meaning of the word bluff? However, the reason behind everything soon became apparent. They were slowly increasing in number, little by little. At first, it was only businessmen on their way home stopping to take a look. Then it was housewives in the middle of a shopping taking a gander. Next, what seemed like the owner of some store showed up, and it was pretty clear he wasn't just looking. Around Mion, there was already about 7 people gathered. It felt different than people coming out to support a friend. If I had to say why, it was because the group that gathered was diverse in age and gender. The three thugs seemed to slowly realize that there was something strange about the situation.
なんだこいつら。
Behind them, at some point, 4 more people of differing clothes and ages had gathered. A girl who looked to be in middle school, a man wearing a bakery apron, an old lady in a house cleaning smock. More and more, peoples of various ages. Their gazes, comparable to Mion's, were of hostility, of intimidation. Before I realized it, over 10 people had formed a ring around us. At that moment, 5 elementary schoolers ran in and joined the circle. There were some familiar faces, some of our classmates. Then these people were residents of Himizawa? More and more people from Himizawa gathered around. In obvious contrast, the residents of Okayama were passing by as quickly as possible. The group surrounding us had suddenly swelled to around 20 people. Holy shit. The void we encircled, the faces of the thugs began to show the first signs of panic. Nobody spoke a word, Mion included. That made everything completely unnatural, depending on which side you were on, completely terrifying. And when the thugs' voices echoed out like they were screaming, somebody took a step forward, closing the gap between them. As they did, everybody else took a step forward, shrinking the circle. The hoodlums went pale as they were pushed together, back to back, while still yelling angrily. They were trying to string together vulgarities, but for some reason it sounded like they were crying out for help.
Hi. どうしたのかな?
What the hell? It was sudden. A solidly built officer cut his way through the crowd. At some point, 2 police cars had arrived. Some passerby had undoubtedly called for them. Several burly officers appeared from inside the second vehicle.
おまわりさん、いいところに来ました。恐喝の現行犯です。捕まえてください。
Extortionist. Mion, returned to her usual self, was nonchalantly pointing out the hoodlums to the police. Of course the thugs were furious, but now that it had come to this, there was nothing they could do. It was their loss.
分かったから。ちょっとおいで。
いいから。
The officers handcuffed the thugs and dragged them towards the patrol cars.
んだよ。話せよ。俺らが被害者なんだよ。聞いてんのか、畜生。
No matter how much of a ruckus they caused, the officers paid no heed. In the blink of an eye, they were crammed inside the 2 vehicles. They could still be heard yelling while inside the police cars, but what they were saying was no longer intelligible.
大丈夫ですか?
He was probably a detective. The man leading the police peered at my face.
いえ、別に。
それは不幸中の幸いでした。では、良いお年を。
The portly man, after taking a quick look around, addressed the crowd.
市民の皆さんの迅速な通報に感謝します。住民の皆さんの連帯のおかげで今日も町の平穏が保たれています。素晴らしいことです。
お仕事ご苦労様です、大石刑事殿。住民を代表して日頃の公務に感謝いたします。一家の刑事がわざわざこんなところまでおいでくださるとは光栄の極みです。
The way Shion talked didn't have a very pleasant tone.
偶然ですよ。県警の帰り道に無線連絡が入りましてね。
Very much doubt that. Probably checked it out to see what citizens of Himizawa were doing.
寄り道したわけです。
お仕事頑張ってください。今後のご活躍を切に祈っております。
いえいえ。でも怪我人が出なくて本当に良かったです。
大石さん、オーケーっす。行きましょ
う。ではでは、良いお年を。失礼。道を開けてもらえますかな。
The detective named Oshi, after drove away making personal trees, mumbled over to the waiting police car. It quickly set off, disappearing down the city street. It was over so quickly I was dumbstruck. Didn't even get to ask the officer what was going on. It was like they came here quickly to disperse the mob before any trouble could start. After making sure the police cars had left, Mion snapped her fingers sharply.
おっしゃ、一丁上がりだね。おととい来やがれっての。
That was the signal. The tension melted away in an instant as everybody began smiling. A middle-aged man helped me up.
大丈夫かい、前原の坊や。今度からは喧嘩は相手を選んでやりな。
別に喧嘩ってわけじゃ。
怪我とかしてない？頭とかぶつけてるならレントゲンを取っておいた方がいいわよ。
An older lady I didn't know the name of was concerned by about in the
たまたま駅前で人通りの多い時間だったからこれだけ集まれたけど、次からは気をつけるんだよ。最近の町もんは物騒なんだから。はあ、まったく。
I wasn't even warned by the old lady in the smock. As Shion had finished applauding the dispersing group for their efforts, she strode over to me.
いやいや、ケイちゃんもやるじゃない。でも私も相手を選んだ方がいいと思いますけどね。
サンキューな、ミオ。助かったよ。
だから私、シオン。
She made a troubled expression as she turned her gaze downward, blushing embarrassment.
お姉に聞いてますよ。オットセイの鍵、あれケイちゃんのですって？
あ、うん、そうだった。これからお店に行こうとしてたんだった。
それで浮かれてて、あんな変なのに絡まれちゃってたんですか？
Now it's my turn for my face to go red. I didn't want to admit that she was spot on.
まあ、ついてなかったよ。でも、シオンのおかげで助かった。
お礼はいらないですよ。だから、ケイちゃんも他の人がいじめられてるのを見つけたら、きっと助けてあげてください。私たち、そういうのをとても大切にするから。
I was well versed in that sense of calamity, but the way I was rescued just now, something seemed a little off about that. When I was helped out, it was honestly to an almost disturbing degree.
お店来ますよね。疲れちゃっただろうから一服しません？おごりますよ。
Seems like that she caught the glimmer of suspicion in my eyes. Without waiting for my answer, Shion began walking. Interesting. So, still another example of that Himizawa mob mentality they kind of have, you know? Giving yet another piece of evidence to support that the villagers are in on it for the murders. After cooling off a bit inside the restaurant little by little, I realized I was still on edge. There was spots here and there on my body that hurt, probably because I had been so stiff with the nervousness. Shion, who had changed into her uniform, brought over 2 glasses of iced coffee.
はいこれ、おごりのアイスコーヒー。レジでこのチケット渡せば無料になりますからね。
My patheticness really knew no bounds. But since she went through the trouble, I might as well take her up on the offer. Even though it had started off as such a lovely day, I had to get carried away and do that stupid thing. I completely ruined it.
でも本当にさっきのは助かったよ。シオンが本当に頼もしく見えた。
私だって怖かったですよ。でも他ならぬケイちゃんのピンチだし、勇気出して頑張りましたってことです。
While a little embarrassed by what she just said, Shion made a show of folding her arms broadly.
シオン、本当にありがとうな。
I was thanking Shion, but I really wanted to thank Mion. Mion, really, thank you.
ほらほら、もう元気出してくださいよ。もしも恩義を感じるなら、今度はケイちゃんが他の誰かのために戦ってくださいね。例えば、私がピンチになったら、きっと助けに来てくださいよ。
ああ、もちろんだ。約束する。
絶対ですからね。
Taking advantage of my words, she seemed happy about my promise.
ピンチになったらケイちゃんが助けに来てくれるのか。早くピンチにならないかな。あ、やっと笑ってくれた。
She said as she smiled herself, poking me in the cheek.
元気のないケイちゃんなんて偽物もいいとこです。ほら笑って笑って
くすぐったいってば。やべ。
Thanks to Shion's bed wine, I finally cheered up a little. All the muscles in my body that stiffened because of the incident finally began to relax a little.
元気出たらお腹とか空いてこないです？私お腹空いちゃいましたからホットケーキとか食べたいんですけど。ケイちゃんも食べます？
I wanted to show a little restraint, but restraint really wasn't my thing. That's why I replied without any.
うまいんだろうな。俺ホットケーキはかなりうるさいぜ。
Better be some good ass pancakes.
安心してください。うちのホットケーキはかなり評判いいですから。
Shion ordered some pancakes from a nearby waitress. Employee ordering from another employee seems kind of weird.
おいおい、そういえばシオン、今バイト中じゃないのか？俺とずっと話をして。
おじさんにね、私が不良に絡まれてるところをケイちゃんが助けてくれたって言ったら、ねぎらってあげろって。だから店長公認で OK です。
それ事実と正反対だぞ。いいのかな？
全然いいのです。
By the time the pancakes arrived, we had entered into a relaxed conversation. Damn, these are good pancakes. As the two of us ate pancakes, we arrived in the mood with some chit-chat. About what was on TV, celebrities, that kind of thing. Hobbies, food, really nothing more than idle chit-chat. Talking together like this, I once again became conscious of Shion being a girl. Hey now, that's funny talk, Hechimabara. Shion and Mion are the same person. If there was anything different between them, it was only whether or not Mion admitted she was Mion. But given that, how come our conversation was this different? I'm telling you, it's actually her sister.
お姉のことを女だと思ってないでしょ
う。そんなことはないよ。男だったら容赦なくどつき倒してる。
ケイちゃんとお姉が仲がいいのってそういうノンセクシャルな関係にあると思うんです。それってなかなかできない羨ましい関係ですよ。
言ってる意味がよくわかんないが、まあ確かに女にしとくにはもったいないやつだよな。
あ、ケイちゃん、それ男女差別ですよ。
Hearing the word sexist was cause for an introspection. Was I prejustice? Fucking goddamn it! What was I? Fucking what? What was I? Prejudiced against Mion and Shion for. Mion was Mion. She was the best friend a guy could have. No reservations and head and shoulders above me when it came to their club activities. If I had met her 5 years earlier, my life would have probably been a lot more fun. This I had no doubt. Then what about Shion? She was Mion's little sister, and it had been 3 days since we met. Their relationship was much more distinct, as the only thread we had in common was that I knew that her sister. And for Shion, it was the same. I was somebody she met 3 days ago only because I had a listening friend of her sister's. The difference between Mion and Shion? Friendliness? Familiarity? Playing around with these unclear thoughts for a while, I had stopped listening to Shion.
例えばですよ。聞いてます？
ああ、ごめん。聞いてるよ。
例えばですよ。私とお姉が共にピンチで、崖にぶら下がってるとします。ケイちゃんはどっちを助けます？どっちか一人だけですよ。
She wasn't saying it to tease me, but it had a playful tone behind her voice.
嫌な問題だな。どっちも助けたいけど、それじゃダメなんだろ？
ダメです。シオンかミオンのどっちかだけです。どっちですか？
If it were me on it, I don't think she would be in that situation in the first place, as it's something she could easily get her out herself. But what about the normal frail Shion? I guess I'd have no choice.
お姉じゃないですよね。
If Mion and Shion were different people, I suppose it would come to that. I couldn't confirm nor deny it. She should have been smiling, but her gaze was firmly locked to mine.
つまりそういうことなんですよ。お姉はそのつまりあれすみません。なんか自分で言ってて破綻しちゃいました。
Shion was trying to talk in a light-hearted manner, but I felt there was something more behind her words. Was Mion trying to tell me something through Shion? Not being able to put a finger on exactly what it was vexing. Shion, to hide her embarrassment, turned the conversation around.
それよりもさっきのあれ驚きましたか？
そりゃ驚いたよ。レナやサトコが駆けつけてくれるならともかく、あんなに老若男女がいろいろと集まってくるんだからな。あれ全部ひなみ沢の人なんだろ？
ええ、そうです。ひなみ沢の人はみんな結束してるんですよ。一人の敵は全員の敵。日和見なんか誰もしません。結構頼もしい住民性なんですよ。
Yeah, that is nice. But if you're the enemy of the people, that isn't so great.
誰かがいじめられたらみんなで結束してやっつけるわけか。なんだかマフィアとかヤクザみたいな結束だな。
そんなこと言っちゃダメですよ。とてもありがたいことなんですから。ケイちゃんもそれに助けられたんですよ。
Well, I was also murdered by that unity as well, so...
感謝の気持ちを忘れないように。
I half-heartedly agreed. I knew full well I should be appreciative.
ひなみ沢の人たちって本当に仲が良くて結束してるんだな。
昔からの伝統かな。ひなみ沢って昔からいろいろと廃村の危機に遭うんですよね。その度に結束して戦って存続を勝ち取ってきたっていう歴史があるんですよ。例えばケイちゃん、ひなみ沢ダム計画って知ってます？
Oh boy. Himizawa Dam project. Let's see. I feel like I've heard somebody talk about it before.
10年くらい前にね、突然ここにダムができてひなみ沢が丸ごと水没するって話になったんですよ。
Yeah, and suddenly the four men died.
あ、そんな話親父かなんかに聞いたことがあるような。でもそれって確か中止になったんだろ？
中止にさせたんですよ。
Uh-huh, you could say that.
みんなで団結して。だからこれは戦って勝ち取った勝利なんです。
That sounded pretty much like the story I heard. Protest and testified to the point where it was featured in newspapers and magazines. As a result, the plan was suspended.
ダムの話そのものは私が生まれる前からあったらしいんです。最初は候補地調査とか砂防のための小さいダムとかそんな程度の話だったんですよ。
But then the cat was let out of the bag. If it were completed, it would have been the biggest dam in Japan. Not just Himizawa, but several villagers upstream would have been submerged as well. The protests immediately began. Petitions to cancel and relocate the project were drafted and submitted to the Diet. They even went so far as to go to the Ministry of Construction in Tokyo to hand over a direct appeal to the minister. The previous landowner sued the government, stating that there were inconsistencies in the purchase agreement and the transaction should be nullified. Owners of yet unacquired land split their properties, increasing the number of landowners in order to stifle the project.
土地の買収なんていうお金の問題のうちは可愛かったんです。そのうち土地の強制収用をちらつかせるようになりましてね。その頃からです。機動隊とかの暴力行為が目立ち始めたのは。
機動隊って警察だろ？暴力行為なんてするのかよ。
殴りますよ。蹴りますよ。私も殴られたことありますし、この辺だったかな。皮が切れちゃったみたいで血がすごい出ました。
Damn. Saying that, Shion indicated her temple by poking at it.
警察とかには
Following complaint against the white boys for police brutality would seem kind of strange for some reason. Naturally, they wouldn't pay heed to something like that. You wouldn't be able to establish proof on who exactly hit you. They could justify their actions by saying you were interfering with police duties.
うちのバッチャ烈火のごとく怒り狂いましてね。それからがすごかった。もう全面戦争ですよ。こっちも座り込みで訴えるなんて生っちょろいことなんかしません。ガンガン攻めました。
First, in order to call attention to the government, they filed a temporary injunction in court. Then, in order to gain public support, they called in prominent scientists to state that Himizawa was a valuable nature preserve. They pressured the prefecture and municipal assembly, saying that the prefectural governor ignored his constituents when he approved the project and demanded his resignation. They completely and thoroughly denounced him. Naturally, in Himizawa, ferocious conflict worthy of being called the Damn War began. In order to suppress the police brutality, they coordinated with a network of channels and exposed the violence of the riot squad members to the public. On top of that, they put together a special expose feud around the government repressing the citizens and aired it nationally. It worked wonders. Following that, the SWAT teams had their hands cuffed. Day after day, the petitions and demonstrations continued. Propaganda was used to help garner support. The circle of support gradually expanded outwards from Himizawa. Either that bore fruit or the government finally decided against it. It was announced that the TAN project was indefinitely suspended just a few years ago.
私たちにできることなら何でもしました。
Did everything, huh?
村全部が一丸になって戦ったんです。
Now the thing is, they did all that, right? Now, this both provides even more, like, not evidence, but more motive to the murder of the foreman. But also kind of denounces it as well, because if they were already doing all of this, what was the reason to kill the foreman, you know? Like, if they were already doing this, doing all these, like, going through the official channels, and, you know, doing, like, getting petitions, having protests, doing exposés, then why do all that, and then eventually do murder? Wouldn't that just hurt your, like, support? Because if a foreman of a major, like, project gets murdered, and there's a group of people who are against that project, who's going to be the most likely suspect? Obviously, the group that didn't want the dam to be put up. So, damn. That really, oh, shit. I was so sure that was the people of Himizawa that killed the foreman, because that made most sense. But now it's just like, what would be the reason to murder the foreman if they were already doing all of this? Like, what reason would they do it? It would literally just hurt them even more. So it's like, shit, maybe Himizawa didn't kill him. And if they didn't kill him, then they would have no reason to kill the other people connected to the dam project. Oh, shit. Oh, fuck. Okay.
あの時は必死だったけど、終わった今となってはいい思い出かな。
Shit.
村人たちの連帯感や団結心は今でも消えていないんです。
Shion said that as she focused off into the distance. I felt that those eyes weren't filled with anguish, but rather a sense of pride.
そういう連帯感っていいよな。なかなかないことだよ。世代を超えて地域で団結できるなんて。
私もそう思います。ダム計画は試練だったけど、それを乗り越えて得たものはとても大きいと思いますよ。
The fear I was feeling until just now gradually began to fade. When people began to show up one after another while I was engaged with those bugs, I thought it was frightening. But now I felt from the bottom of my heart that I had been weird. Villagers prepared to defend their homeland to the death. The sense of solidarity that fostered. It might seem impudent to say this, but I was a little jealous. If I had been Himizawa when the project against the dam was going on, I might have been able to share in that sense of solidarity.
ケイちゃんは反対運動の時、ひなみ沢にいなかったから、村人たちの連帯感を実感できないかもしれないけど、みんなにはあるの。しっかりと。それはたとえ引っ越してきたばかりのケイちゃんに対してもね。
Damn it. We just had a conversation early in the episode about how appearances can be deceiving. So maybe they were doing the official channels in order to give off a good, like, public face. And behind the scenes, they actually did the murder in order to actually do something. Maybe that was all just a facade. Ah, god damn it. Ah, shit. Damn it. Oh, I love mystery games when they do this, when it gives you two different solutions and it provides evidence for both solutions. Oh, that's so good. Oh, I love being indecisive. She couldn't have been more right. So many people got together to help me out when I was just moved here, even though they were strangers whose names I didn't even know. A hot feeling began welling up inside of me. When I lived in the city, I didn't even know my own neighbors. I thought that was natural, but here, that was an absurd and pathetic thing. Even though I thought of them as strangers, all the other villagers viewed me as a comrade, happiness and warmth. I was acutely aware of those feelings as they gradually welled up inside of me.
園崎さん、店長がホール入ってほしいそうです。
A more senior waitress waved her hand and called out to Shion. It seemed like it was more time to work.
あ、はい、今入ります。すみません。もう仕事しないとまずいみたいです。
いいよいいよ。付き合ってくれてありがとな。楽しかったよ。
あ、帰っちゃいます？
まあな。飯の時間には戻らないとおふくろがうるさいし。
It seemed that Shion wanted to say something, but she swallowed her words. Like we hadn't talked enough, that kind of feeling. Looking at that expression, I regretted saying something that disappointed me on like that. I was about to say that I could stay for a bit longer when Shion got up from her seat.
はい、これ。このチケットで払えば、ホットケーキ代も大丈夫ですから。
Saying that, she showed me a coupon booklet as she tore out a few sheets and handed them to me.
便利でしょ？お給料の他にもらえるボーナスチケットなんですよ。
いいよ。ホットケーキ代くらい払えるよ。
おやおや、遠慮するなんてケイちゃんらしくないですよ。私がお姉だったら喜んでおごられるくせに。
She said as she laughed, gently stopping me from opening my wallet. Being told so with such an encouraging smile really resounded with me.
園崎さん、すみません。レジ入ってください。
あ、はい、今すぐ。
Later, today was fun. Saying that, Shion smiled once more time at me.
あ、ミオン。今日は本当にありがとうな。この恩は忘れないよ。
そう思うなら、きっと返してください。楽しみにしてますから。
After I said it, I realized I mistakenly called her Mion. I don't know if she realized it or not. Interesting. Oh, nighttime. Lazing around and watching television after dinner was part of my daily routine. Might seem like a waste at first glance, but you could say it was an important time when I was able to acquire knowledge of everything from politics to economics to various trivia. After dinner was valuable time well spent while the brain was at its most suppled with nutrients.
バカバカ、東京タワーの方が高いに決まってるだろ。
What are you watching, Jeopardy? Today I tested my knowledge of trivia by watching my weekly quiz show. Sitting in front of the television, I was able to get a lot of the answers right. But if I were actually up on stage, I'd probably fail miserably.
ケイイチ、園崎さんから電話よ。
はいよ。園崎？ミオンか。
It was a little late for her to be calling. I had a bad feeling about this. I had a hunch it was something to do with club activities. She was probably going to inform me about what we were doing tomorrow. This was Mion we were talking about. She might even go so far as to say we're doing club activities right now, so hurry up and come on over. By the way, it was 8 p.m.
もしもし。今から部活の野戦ってのは却下だぞ。
え？じゃなくて、
It was Mion, but it was a very un-Mion-like way of talking. Huh? Could be.
ごめん。ひょっとしてミオンじゃなくてシオンか？
そうです。どうもこんばんは。夜分遅くにすみません。
For Mion, this would have been an ill-fittingly polite way of talking. But since it was Shion, it was natural. Even though they were both the same person. With a dry smile, I enjoyed that mysterious feeling.
いや別にいいよ。それより何の用だい？
ケイちゃんはケーキとかデザートとか甘いものは好きですか？
There's no way I hated them. I'm an unabashed glutton.
ならよかったです。実はですね、夏の新デザートコンテストってのがありまして。
Looks like they have a new dessert menu every season. So they were hiring taste testers for potential desserts.
エンジェルモートのデザートはかなり評判いいんですよ。モニターの募集もかなり倍率高いんです。それで担当直入な話。じゃーん。
じゃーんと言われても見えないからわからないけど、ひょっとして。
そうです。そのモニターチケットがここにあるってわけです。もしも甘いものが嫌いじゃないならいかがですか？
いかがですかって、つまりなんだよ。そのチケットで俺が新デザートを食い放題と、そういうわけなのか？
They say to beware of honey pots, but this is sweeter than any pot of honey. Oh, you can eat free dessert? No way.
OK ならモニター当選者の末番に名前を書いておきますね。明日お店に来たら係の者に名前を言ってください。それで万事 OK ですから。
万事 OK って、それで食べ放題なのか？無料なのか？
ええ、無料です。結構ありますからお腹を空かせてくることをお勧めします。
This was such a delectable opportunity, it was almost scary. This was really Shion, right? It wasn't me on posing as Shion in order to make me into trap for us. What am I saying? They're the same person.
はい、はい。ケイちゃんの考えてることは分かってますよ。こんな美味しい話があるわけないって思ってるんでしょ？
I mean, yeah.
ギク。いや、そんなことは全然。
お姉から聞いてますけど、つくづく嘘のつけない人なんですね。私、そういうの嫌いじゃないです。
Shion laughed with a voice that sounded like how Mion would laugh.
下心ってわけじゃないんですけど、実は私、明日はちょっとバイトしたらすぐに終わりなんです。もしもご迷惑じゃなかったら、その後ちょっとご一緒してもらってもいいかなって思いまして。
へえ、明日のバイトはすぐ終わっちゃうんだ。
はい。だから、ケイちゃんがデザート食べながらのんびりしてるうちに終わっちゃうんです。
まあ、俺も特に用事はないし、多少付き合うくらいなら構わないよ。
別にどこかに行くわけでもないです。夕涼みしながらお散歩でもできたらなって思ってるだけですから。
There was no reason for me to refuse. Out of curiosity, I might as well take her up on the offer. Yeah, sure.
そういえば、ケイちゃんと私ってなんだか毎日会ってますよね。
言われてみればそうだな。
Nah, this is purely platonic. There's absolutely nothing romantic about this at all.
でも OK してもらえたおかげでまた明日も会える口実を作ることができました。
Huh? What was Mayon saying?
ケイちゃん、なんだか声が裏返ってます。どうしたんでしょうね。
It wasn't a video phone, but she could tell it was speed
じ
wet.
ゃあ明日きっと来てくださいね。それじゃあこれで失礼します。おやすみなさい。
あ、おやすみ。
Shion finished with what she had called to say, ended the conversation without any chit-chat. When we returned to the living room after hanging up the phone, the TV was already off and my mom was sleeping in a rocking chair. And feeling like turning the TV back on, I went back upstairs and returned to my room.
俺、シオンに世話になってばかりだよな。
She bought me a bento, saved me when I got involved with those thugs. She was supposed to be a different person so I could thank me on at school. Come to think of it, she'll probably just say she'll pass it on to her sister. I have to thank Shion directly. Tomorrow I'll have to repay her somehow. Details of the delinquent three. Oh, thank God. I want to know more about those guys. I was so curious. Mob mentality. Hey, exactly what I was saying. Oh, yeah, you guys can't see that, but achievement just propped up called mob mentality. Alright.
で俺たちが逮捕されなきゃなんねんだろ。すっとらってんじゃねえ。話さんけこれ。
クマちゃん、腕を離してあげていいですよ。さ、どうぞおかげになって。
Three people wove their arms painfully. Kumaguri-kun and the others must have been squeezed in them pretty tightly.
お兄さんたち誤解しないでくださいよ。別に逮捕したわけじゃないんだから。クマちゃん、冷蔵庫から冷たいの出してあげてください。お兄さんたちは泡の出る麦茶と出ない麦茶どっちがいいです？
Look, Oshi, are you ever going to put on that jacket, or are you always just going to carry it around? I'm probably just going to carry it around everywhere I go. They plunked down onto the receptionist sofa, and despite not yelling anymore, they still had dangerous expressions. What I give to be young again?
飲まないなら私勝手に飲んじゃいますよ。失礼してピシッと。勤務中に飲むビールが一番美味しいですね。
As he downed the beer with greed, the three people exchanged glances, then finally reached out for their cans. And stopped being cautious. It was more like they didn't see a reason to refuse. They each opened their cans and began to drink the contents.
お兄さんたちはどっから来たんです？ここいらの人じゃないでしょう。
They looked at each other again, suspicious of whether they should tell him.
お兄さんたち大学生？お友達同士？バイクか何かで旅行中だったんでしょうかね。羨ましいなあ。家は近くってわけじゃないんでしょう？どっから来たの？大阪ですかな？
んなのどこでもいいだろ。
まあそう凄まないで。あのままいたらお兄さん方だってやばかったでしょう。
They seemed to recall the thrilling event from earlier. While they could understand getting surrounded by students or a gang or something along those lines, they would have never been surrounded by locals, both young and old, both men and women before. It was easy to imagine how scared they must have been.
ここいらの人間ならどんな間違いがあってもひなみ沢の人間には手出ししないですよ。あそこの連中は特殊なんです。子供の喧嘩に親は出てくるな、なんてもんじゃない。一人をいじめたらそれこそ村中が総出でやってきますよ。 いや、ほんと、脅しでも何でもなく。
They couldn't argue against that. They themselves had been surrounded. They'd seen it with their own eyes. There's no doubt about it.
ここいらじゃねえ。ひなみ沢の人間に睨まれたら、あっさり鬼隠しにあって消えちまうんです。もう、跡形もなく忽然と。お兄さん方、行方不明になったら誰か捜索願いを出してくれるご家族はいます？いないならまずいな。蒸発扱いですよ。
Even then, we got there soon enough that nothing happened. If we'd been late, things could have taken a turn for the worst. If they'd been forced into an alleyway, these young men wouldn't be sitting on a couch right now. They might be lying on an autopsy table. Well, probably not. Anyway, perhaps they'd be a little more cooperative if we found them as corpses. Alright.
お兄さん方、沖宮へは何で来たの？電車？バイク？
バイク。
そりゃまずいな。さっきのとこにまだ止めっぱなしなんでしょ？あんたらのこのことバイクを取りに戻ったら、今度こそ袋叩きに遭いますよ。
なんだよそれ。上等じゃねえか。
Calm down, calm down. Why are young people these days so quick with the shouting?
あんたらももう面倒ごとはごめんでしょう。バイクのナンバー教えてください。ここまで持ってきてあげますから。クマちゃん、交通課対策にゲート車を借りてきてください。
別にいいよ。自分たちで取りに行くからいいって。
あんたら本気で囲まれたいんですか？今度は警察間に合わないかもしれませんよ。
大丈夫だっつったんだろ。囲み上等で。
Very much so that.
おい、お兄さん方。
Oh shit.
あんたら今泡の出る麦茶飲んだろ。エンジンかけてみろ。その場で飲酒取るぞこら。
汚ねえ。
警察が税金使って兄さん方のバイクを運びして死んぜよって言ってんだよ。ごちゃごちゃ言わねえでナンバー言えってんだよこのクソバカ野郎。
The three were hesitant to tell him the numbers. They were mumbling something along the lines of not remembering them since they bought the bikes. Well, that's what I thought.
クマちゃん、ゲート車に同行してバイク持ってきてあげて。ごつい赤いやつとテールランプの右側が割れたやつ。あとシートにガムテ貼ってあった白いやつ。
Damn, Moshi.
それだろ。兄さんたちのバイク。
They didn't answer. Those must be the right ones.
おいさん、ゲート車来ましたんで行ってきます。
はいはい、よろしくお願いします。あとクマちゃん、ちょっと。
なんすか？
ナンバー紹介しといてください。間違ったバイクを持ってきちゃうと悪いから。
The three people's faces changed color. They made it themselves very easy to understand.
バイク戻ってくるまでのんびりしてましょうよ。ビールもっとありますよ。乾き物だってありますし。テレビ見ます？ろくなのやってませんけどね。
いいよ、俺たちもう行くから。こんなとこにいつまでもいたくねえよ。
Suddenly, there were five or six huge officers surrounding them. Their queerly overpowering stares nailed them to the sofa.
なんだよ。俺たちが何かしたかよ。
Going on a trip by stealing motorcycles, huh? Students these days have too much time on their hands. Nice. Damn, Moshi's good. He ain't a veteran detective for nothing. But, yeah, I think this is a great time to stop. We learned a lot. We learned a little bit more about the whole damn war and what Himizawa did to, like, stop the project. And has put, a little doubt against my theory of the villagers being behind every single murder. So, yeah, if you enjoyed this type of content, hit that subscribe button. If you liked it, hit the like button. Want to tell me something? Put it down in the comments below. Want to join the Discord server I hang out in, or my Twitter? Check the description below. And, yeah, this has been Voidlego. I'll see you guys next time. See ya!
Have you ever wanted to play? You could meet people and kick them in the face. Well, I got news for you. It's a place called Jimmy's Bar. It's